Welcome. I am Dr. Katherine Hall Newburgh, founder of Books of Eden Publishing. And I want to speak to you today about how to find a place of power and stillness and strength in a time when our world and possibly the people around us seem to be spinning into chaos or out of control or in ways that we don't recognize. And I want to acknowledge that we are standing now in a time of converging prophecies and of clashing dharmic paths. This is a time of very deep testing that we're entering into. And every last one of us will be challenged to find our deepest truth and to stand in it. And this deep truth is a place that isn't shaken by the chaos of the world, that isn't shaken by the decisions or the choices that other people make. This is a place that exists beyond the shifting sands of phenomena of our world. This is our place of deep truth, and we will be challenged to find it. And so my intention with this video is to help us find a path to that, so that we can go back again and again and again and find that no matter what is happening. So the first thing I want to acknowledge is that our resistance to whatever is happening in the world, it comes from our deep compassion. It comes from our love of each other and of our country. And when we are confronted by suffering, and we're confronted by agony, and we're confronted by horror, in those moments it can seem easier to fight than to feel. But fighting resistance, moving outside of yourself to try to move and shift and change the world around you, that is a weak stance. And it will accomplish nothing but to exhaust you. Now, I'm not saying that we don't do anything, right? What I'm speaking of, what I want to bring forward, is the nature of peace. We do not have the power to move out of ourselves and make the world conform to our personal preferences of what it should look and feel like. Not when we step outside of ourselves. The only thing we truly have to offer the world is our alignment with our inner truth. We cannot change another person. Not through force, not through personal will. But what we can do is offer them and offer the world our perfect and impeccable alignment with our inner truth. This is the place of strength and power. And this is the place of peace. This is the place that knows the solution, that knows the way through, in alignment with the greatest good of all. And you must know that there is always a solution to whatever conflict that we're seeing, where it looks like there's factions and sides and enemies, and it looks like one person against another person and someone must win, right? Competition and fighting. We must know that there is always a transcendent solution that will bring about the benefit of all, right? But that solution can only be found from within. Now, I'd like to talk about a couple of misconceptions that we have about peace and about the nature of peace and the nature of the heart, because oftentimes the heart is the first thing to be relinquished in times of conflict. However, the heart is our most powerful instrument. It is aligned with the powers of creation. And though it might not work in a linear or rational way that we understand, it is always working toward the greatest good of all. So when we align with that, we are aligned with the solution that will bring about the end of suffering, that will bring about the appeasement of horror, that is aligned with the light of grace. However, we think often that peace must be passive, right? It's a passive thing. It turns us into doormats, right? It allows people to walk all over us. Peace is not passive. It is active and alert. It is vibrant. And it does not come through compromise. And it does not come through betrayal. Nor does it come through resistance. Peace is the indwelling voice of your heart. And when you find it, you will know. Because it is so clear and so obvious that it doesn't need defense or explanation. It simply is. This is the way forward. This is what I must do now. This is how I will speak. And it will show you the way forward. The first thing it's going to ask you to do, though, is to feel. The first thing your heart is going to ask you to do is to feel. And we fear that. This is why we take up our pitchforks and we go running into the world and we tilt at the windmills of our fears and we tilt at the windmills of our agony, and all that happens is that we get thrown back on ourselves and the suffering of the world marches on. If you really want to help the world, the first thing you're going to do is get very, very quiet. Go beneath your rage, go beneath your fears, go beneath your frustrations, and dive deep down and come into contact with that still, small voice that when you find it rings louder than any bell. It rings louder than the clamoring world. It rings louder than this and that telling you what is right and what is wrong. It is there. And that is the stance that you will take no matter what the world is doing, no matter what chaos is happening around you. That is your place of strength. You must be open to what it tells you. It might tell you something you don't expect. It might tell you to move away from the world for a while, to go upriver, to find yourself, to root yourself before you come back. It might tell you to reach out in love to someone who you never thought you could forgive. It might tell you to do all sorts of things. This is the place of trusting. And we begin to trust it. And as we begin to trust it, we will begin to change the world. Don't underestimate the potency of this time. Nor the opportunities of this time. We're growing beyond. We're growing beyond what has worked for us in the past. And in listening to our heart, we will move through it together and with the least amount of suffering. This path can be joyful. It can be ecstatic. It can be fulfilling. We're on the brink of creation, where we get to decide what world we're going to be stepping into. Do not fear this time. Do not fear the dissolution of any system, any belief that is not aligned with love, that is not aligned with the universal consciousness. Your heart will take you through it. Your heart knows the way, and your soul knows the way. So in this time, when all seems to be falling into chaos, when we're being deeply tested, remember, the only thing you have to offer the world is your alignment with your inner truth. So your first step is always to find that. And you will know when you touch on it. You will know. We're powerful beings. Each and every one of us. And we're being called now to step into that power in a way that we have never seen before. I invite you to answer that call right now. I'm Dr. Katherine Hall Newburgh, founder of Books of Eden Publishing and the author of the book, The New Eden, Paradise Retold, and I am committed to reestablishing Eden on earth for every single being who lives here. I hope you will join me.